we're live now, so we'll see.
Yeah, cool. We're good. Or looks like it.
So Blake, if that happens again, during the show tonight, just finish your thought, stand by, and I'll be right back on.
Cool. Yeah.
And we'll deal with it in post, as they say.
As they say. Just a note for you. I don't know if this will happen live, but it put me backstage immediately when you got kicked.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's that.
Oh, well, that's fun. We'll figure it out. Hi, everyone. Hi. We're here an hour earlier tonight because of some scheduling things, but we're glad that you can join us if you are here with us. We're gonna talk about some fun stuff tonight, Blake. You like the robotics?
I'm so excited. I feel like we haven't talked about robots in a long time.
When was the last time we talked about robots?
Say it had to do with like the COVID bot or whatever that was roaming around hospitals.
COVID bot. Oh, you know what? I think you might be
or
right.
prescriptions, something like that.
You might be right. I'm going to do a quick little search on our website.
Do it.
Which is your comprehensive resource for all things human factors, or I want it to be. Wouldn't that be cool if people like searched our website first, or our stuff came up when somebody searched for it? I can't remember what I searched for. I searched for something on the internet just a couple of weeks ago or something, and one of our deep dives came up.
That's cool.
Really impressed. Here, let me just do a quick search on robot. See what comes up. 215.
Have you seen this on what do you call it? On Verge anyway. That you can actually listen to the article, so it's almost like a little audiobook.
No,
right on the page. That's pretty sick.
Hey, that sounds like a one more thing to me. If you don't,
yeah, if you're hurting for one more thing, that's a good one.
Yeah. So it looks like the last time we talked about robotics, there's you and Elise talked about it on episode 205 with exoskeletons briefly. That wasn't the last. I mean, that wasn't the last episode centered around robots. Now, we did have, flying a drone on Mars. We had that one. Not robotics. We had exoskeletons using AI. Again, kind of adjacent, but not quite robotics. Last time we talked about Tesla, seems like was 183. And then
it's been a while for any kind of real Tesla stuff.
Yeah, we had robotic exosuits, episode 166. Robot lifeguards. Here it is, episode 156, March 6th, 2020. Almost a year and a half ago.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah.
A year and a half ago.
Good.
That's insane that we've not talked about robots in a year and a half. Thank you, patrons. This is great. I love this. If you are hanging out with us tonight, say hello in the chat. Give us a boop that like button to help other people find what we're doing. If you are on a platform with a like button, follow us if you like this stuff and want to see more of it. Yes, we're talking about Tesla's artificial intelligent humanoid robot. If you have not seen this thing, Tesla bot. You do a quick Google search for Tesla bot, and this is what shows up. Is the thumbnail of this video here?
I feel like whoever did the drawings was an Asimov fan. This really, the face reminds me of iRobot a lot.
It definitely looks. What's the word I'm looking for? Foreboding.
Yeah, which is hilarious given the context of the story.
Yeah,
we can get into that a little bit then.
So here you go. Here's the Tesla bot. I'm pulling it up now for your convenience. This is the article by TechCrunch. We saw The Verge break it first, so we're using them. But this is the Tesla bot
graphic. Yeah,
it's got some key descriptive stats here. It's 5'8", 45 pounds carry capacity. It will weigh approximately 125 pounds, deadlift 150 pounds. It'll be able to move at a top speed of 5 miles per hour, extend arm extend lift at 10 pounds. So, with built a world built by humans for humans. Friendly, eliminates dangerous, repetitive, boring tasks. We'll talk about tasks, little tease for tonight. But dude, we got some really good, I'll call it intel. We got some good intel, some good tiebacks to human factors proper. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in here about like the hard problems of human robotic interaction, the application areas of human robotic interaction. We're going to talk about more than Tesla's bot here. We're using that as a springboard to jump hardcore into human factors here. Really excited about this.
You know what I'm really excited about, Nick?
What are you really excited about?
We have the powerful Mr. Kirby in the chat. He's joined us. So, hello, Master Kirby. I hope everything's good across the pond. I'm glad you could make it. This was like an accidental, schedule change because of my silliness. But it's cool. I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. In fact, we will read one of his comments on the show tonight for Social Thoughts. And if you're watching, regardless of whatever platform you're on, the question for tonight is, would you let a humanoid robot in your house? Is that something that you're comfortable with, I guess, what's the level of acceptance? And then if so, what tasks would you want it to perform for you around the house? What kind of applications do you feel like it would be able to perform for you? And so those are the questions. Drop them in whatever platform you're on right now in chat, and we'll read them on the show tonight if we like them. We got quite a few, but we will read Barry's. So he's here hanging out, and it's a good comment too. I really think it's an important comment. So very excited about that. What else we got going on? Oh, we need to pick out some It Came From, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so I pre-selected a few that I wanted to get your thoughts on. Yeah, I was taking a look a little earlier.
Excellent.
Okay, are you ready? I'm gonna read these to you, Blake. You tell me yay or nay. I've got like 4, so be selective. Or I got like 4 or 5 or something, so be selective. Okay. Automotive versus aerospace industry pros and cons. Basically, if you've worked in either or both as human factors, what are your thoughts? Which one is better for our profession? Which one is more fun? Which one has better long-term job security?
Interesting. That could be cool, but I don't have the experience in the automotive realm that I want. I would love to work on automotive technology.
I mean, we could speculate, right?
I could definitely speculate heavily. So that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, so...
But anyway, we can keep going.
We can keep going. I mean, we can speculate based on things that we've talked about on the show in the past, like how, automotive, it'll still be there, but it'll be different because you're not going to be interacting with all these control systems, especially as we get more automated vehicles. It's going to be, well, how do you keep the human in the loop? All that stuff. Here's the next one. Staying plugged in to the design universe. Because I'm the only designer at my company, I often feel I'm not keeping up with the evolution of UX design. Follow blogs, listen to podcasts, but they just discuss methodology or career advice.
Well, we can't help you, sir.
What do you do to stay plugged in and up to date with design trends in industry?
Interesting. We could have probably pretty different opinions on that one.
Maybe. My opinions go to conferences.
Like,
follow people who are like-minded. Or think the way you do. Let's see here. What about... Here's another one. To be successful in this field, do you need to speak more than what is required? Please read. I think their whole thing here is how to tactfully explain information, because they feel like they can get their point across in 2 minutes, but people that they work with take almost 10 minutes to explain something I'm assuming they become bored, literally lose track of the topic. They go off topic about everything. They don't get the point across. This could be an interesting one about communication.
Yeah. Like reading the room.
I kind of like this one for that reason. And think it would make a good standalone. But
perfect.
All right, so I'm gonna grab that one. We'll talk about that one for sure.
Yeah, we'll try that. You got one more?
Yeah, I do. Very quickly scheduling design content for future episodes.
Yes. That's so good.
If you're unaware, Barry has a podcast that you should listen to. It's 1202, the Human Factors Podcast. If I got that wrong, Barry, please correct me. I think that's from memory. I'm Googling to make sure I am 1202, the Human Factors Podcast. Barry Kirby, a series of interviews. It's really great. I actually listened to a couple of them. Really interesting, entertaining. So if you do like that interview style, we do interviews typically around conferences and try to bunch them up around those. But this is like a steady drip of top minds in the field. So please go check it out. Definitely worth a listen. All right, back to... Okay, so we got that one. Sorry, I was reading. It came from potential...
Yeah, I think we got one more you're going to read.
I may have one or two more. Let's see. So we have Journeys into the Unknown. What's the best method for mapping processes across multiple teams? Intentionally leaving out context. Let's see here. Basically, they're working with account management, project management teams to map client touch points across the business. And so, like, what's the best method of mapping processes across multiple teams? So we could talk about this broadly about how to tackle these really complex issues of basically these really cumbersome systems. Like, how do you even tackle that, right?
Yeah, that sounds pretty tough, to be completely honest. I would have to like really noodle a little bit on thinking about how to even approach it. I got some high level thoughts. That's something we've never really dove into, so that might be fun to try.
Yeah, I will put it in here as like an optional, right? I want you to read it.
Really pop down there then.
Yeah, there it is. Peek. Can take a look at that. I am looking for
account management, project management.
Okay. I thought I had maybe one more. Oh, we read that one last week. That's right. I'm changing. So I get a feed of these. I'm changing the emojis from week to week, so that way I know where it starts and end. I like the staying plugged into the design universe. I think that's an important question.
Oh, we've answered stuff from Neurotic Buddha before.
Have we?
Yeah, I recognize that name. Yeah, so let's do that one. That'll be fun.
All right, and then you know what? I'll just throw this one in here. I like this one enough to where I'm like, basically, long story short, we threw them all in.
Did we? You said we already did this one. No, we did not. Okay.
No.
Oh,
no.
This is the one you were talking about. Do we need to speak more than what is required? Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a tough one.
The speak more than's required. I think that was a great one.
I think it is. Yeah, it's just an interesting, because it's definitely a reading the room thing to me.
Yeah. Hey Blake, Barry wants to know when we can come on to be interviewed. the greatest cinematic crossover of all time.
The Human Factors Cast universe, HFU.
Hey Barry, reach out to us on Twitter DM or through our email, and we'll get something set up. I'd love that.
Yeah, happy to do it whenever.
That'd be a good time.
It'd be fun to work on some crossover content, like as a wider array of stuff, instead of just like bring each other on the shows, like see what we can brainstorm and put together. So if that's something you're both open to, that would be a fun topic of conversation sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some exciting things cooking behind the scenes over here too. Like we went from like no conference coverage to like potentially 3 conferences in the next month and a half.
Oh wow. That's more than I even know. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I was going to tell you, Blake. We may have somebody who's going to be on the show to talk about UXPA. So
Excellent.
if that's something that you're interested in, it might be tomorrow AM. But I'll let you know exactly when. We're just trying to schedule it because it was this week. And so, we've done coverage of UXPA Boston, like the local chapters. And I think you may have even done some coverage of UXPA LA back in the day, but I don't think we've actually done UXPA International. And
oh, wow, it's the big one. That's intense.
Yeah. Cool. So that'd be cool. And that's something I've always wanted to go to. And it'd be good to get the perspective from somebody on the ground there,
Absolutely.
So yeah, let's see here. I think are we set with show notes?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the 4 Reddits. I'm done with the blurb. So you said UXPAI. Is there like another conference too that's in the works?
Yes, and we will announce something. Actually, you know what? For everyone listening now, I'll give you all a heads up. We have a giveaway going. So if you want to go, I mentioned this on last week's show. As a reward for joining us early, we have a giveaway going. If you visit our website, links in the description. Neuroergonomics Conference, the folks over there have reached out to us and have given us a couple of complimentary passes that we're able to give away. So if you're already listening to this or watching this, wherever you're at, you are likely already eligible for some of these entries. So, follow that link for more information, but it's going to happen, like I said, on the 11th through the 16th. And we'll have coverage from that event. We're trying to organize something with the folks behind the scenes. So whether that's interviews or some sort of social or something like that, we'll see what's going on. Yes, so conference coverage galore in the future. And then, of course, there's HFES, which we won't be in person, but I suspect that we'll have some contacts going there that we'll be able to reach out to.
Excellent. That's always a good time.
See how that's going. My contact for UXPA actually went in person. I'd be curious to get their thoughts because it's like for us, right? It doesn't make sense for us to go. I have a small child, and with like Delta and Lambda and all that stuff, it just seems a little bit too risky to get on a plane with individuals, go to a conference, mingle with people from all over the country, potentially bring home, a deadly virus to my unvaccinated son because he can't be at this point. Like it just doesn't make sense for us, right? But
sure.
But HFES is doing like a virtual style portion of it this year. It's a little bit delayed from the actual event, so it might be like a month-long ordeal. We'll get more details later, I'm sure. But
that's cool. Lots of content for the next couple of months.
Gonna be busy for sure.
It almost makes me wish I wasn't starting the new job like in 2 weeks. It would be cool doing it at the end of the year.
Have you announced that publicly yet? Or you just did?
I haven't where it is. But I guess I just outed myself that, I'm starting a new job here soon.
Yes. And it's It's both a blessing and a curse because now we can't talk about certain news stories, but that's okay.
Yep. Yes, because we can always just replace me for those times. Because there's some stuff that I'm sure that would be fun to talk about on here. But it's one of those things that I still have to work out all the details for. Because I love the platform because there's no. To an extent, there's no like filtering of the ideas that we're able to present, and I don't want that to be something that happens just because I work for somebody.
Yep. So, no, I get it. And we'll disclose those conflicts of interest, of course, when we can or when it's necessary. So anyway, little tease there. So follow Blake on LinkedIn to see what his new gig is. Oh man, I think this is like record time for us getting show notes together.
Well, to be fair, the blurb was pretty short.
Yeah.
And since we're gonna like kind of jump off into other, not just focus on like Tesla's or development of a robot or whatever, it'll be a lot more going down rabbit holes than focusing solely on what the design is and all that kind of stuff. Although there's aspects of that will be fun to talk about and get your perspective on. Yeah,
please bring those up. Hey, if you're joining us live, thank you, first off. Really appreciate you watching live with us. We are doing this a little bit earlier than normal, and we have pretty good attendance. I'm looking at the numbers.
Nice.
So thank you for joining us. If whatever platform you're on, if you will give us a like to help other people find the show, that would be helpful. A follow, or a subscribe, so you don't miss this type of stuff. That would also be very helpful. I'm done begging. That's it. We lost somebody when I started that. It's okay.
Oh man, it's too funny. But anyway, this is still the pre-show anyhow. It
is the pre-show. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I feel like I have like 3 different trains of thought that I'm juggling in my head. Hey, do you want to guess how many entries we have for this giveaway already?
17.
You think we have 17?
17.
What if I told you?
What if I told you we have 5? There's a fair amount.
What if I told you
a little bit in the Discord about it?
Yeah. What if I told you we had 43 entries so far?
What? That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Well, that's sick because that means that there's a lot of people interested in this specific conference. That I'm really excited for. I still have this neuroergonomics book that I think is heavily influenced or heavily edited by Sheridan and somebody else, some other big name that I cannot think of. And so it was really cool to see that there's a conference that's centered around neuroergonomics. This is not a good sign. I have to read things tonight.
Barry Kirby. I'm interviewing a guy who's doing Human Factors in Diving conference tomorrow.
Yes.
We got in touch with him too. So it'll be nice to. That'd be cool to. I didn't. That's right. That conference is going too. I meant to reach out to him. Juggling a million different things. Life's been crazy.
Absolutely. That's really cool. I look forward to listening to the interview then.
Yeah.
That idea we had that in one of our lab meetings that came up and everybody was really excited about it. So we'll have to let everybody know that Master Kirby's doing that for us. Or for his podcast, whatever.
Yeah. We'll certainly
I love those niche topics of human factors that they can be applied to.
Yeah, like what how specific you want to get, Blake? Like human factors of I don't know. What would be your dream conference?
My dream conference?
Yeah. Like not one that exists. Make one. On the spot.
Yeah, so I would love, because this is what I always wanted to do with my career, like user experience and human factors of like I can't think of the right word, like music equipment design and the entire experience that goes around that.
Like NAM, but for just designers.
Like NAM for people that design the stuff, because like it's gotten to the point where there's so much software and analog hardware that's involved, and like guitars being made out of stuff that is not wood anymore. There's just all sorts of cool technology aspects of it, and then just sound design period is really interesting to me. But the tools are still, outside of like one company that I can think of, the tools are still have like a really high learning curve. So it's one of those things I would be super interested in applying, both the human factors and like UX design side of things, the design of tools like that.
Very cool. For me, it'd be, I don't know, human factors of Star Wars interfaces, or I don't know, or like sci-fi interfaces or something. You know, like,
ooh, yeah.
Honestly, like my dream job would be like Imagineering. Because that's exactly what that is, you know, you're basically, you know, like Galaxy's Edge, right? Take that and extrapolate that into all the human factors that go into designing an immersive experience for park goers. That'd be so cool. And if you had like, you know, just a conference of that, like a bunch of theme parks getting together, making, you know, sharing their trade secrets. That'd be so cool.
Absolutely. Or even like the various pop-ups that are appearing, that were appearing at some point, of like really immersive experiences for Star Wars or whatever it would be, even like zombie things through VR. Yeah, that's the whole immersion behind it and making it feel as real as possible. There's so much going on there. How
about this? Human factors of immersive attractions.
Yep,
that would be it, right?
Yeah, that would be really sick. That should be like a whole track at HFES.
It should be a new technical group. We'll go ahead and start it. All right. If you're hanging out with us, stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're gonna do the show live here in front of you all. And we'll be back right after this. Blake, you got... Oh, wait. Sorry, I killed the music too early. Blake, you got the...
I do.
Audacities up? Okay. Yeah. Great. Then I will get mine up here as soon as I can. And I just realized I have a bunch of processes running on my computer that are going to slow me down. So give me a second. Oh, geez. I should have done this before. I'm really sorry. I apologize.
That's fine. We'll be all right.
Okay. If you promise, we will be okay. Let's see here. Gotta kill that chat application that is very resource intensive, that is done by a certain company that has a whole Office suite.
Yeah, that thing.
All right, we'll be right back. Stick with us as we start our show, Graham. All right.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is episode 217. We're recording this live on September 2nd, 2021. This is Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Roome. I'm joined today across the internet by Mr. Blake Arnsdorff.
Bless the internet. Nick, how are you?
Hey, man, I am good. We have got a great show for you tonight. We'll be talking about Tesla's humanoid robot and a bunch of other human factors applications, what it means and all that stuff. But first, we have some programming notes and community updates that we'd like you all to be aware of. We know you like conference coverage. Like I mentioned last week, we're adding a new one to our list. We have the Neuroergonomics Conference of 2021. This is going to be happening from September 11th to the 16th. We've been invited. You have coverage, but there's more. We mentioned all this last week, but what we couldn't announce is that we have a giveaway. We have a giveaway for a ticket to go. 3 lucky winners here will be announced on next week's podcast. So if you're listening to this in the next week from when we drop it, go check it out. We have a link in the description of this episode. If you're listening or watching now, you probably already qualify for a few of the entries. So go check that out. And I think that's going to be it for programming notes. We have some more exciting announcements coming soon. So anyway, we know why you're here. You're here for Human Factors News. So let's get into it. Yes, Human Factors News. This is the part of the show where we talk about Human Factors News. We anything related to the field of human factors. It's fair game for us to sit here and talk about it. This week, like I mentioned, we got Tesla is working on some humanoid robots. Blake, can you break it down for me? Break it down.
I can break it down for you. So Tesla CEO Elon Musk says that his company is working on a humanoid robot and will build a prototype sometime next year. So the humanoid robot will leverage Tesla's experience with automated machines in its factories, as well as some of the hardware and software that powers the company's autopilot driver assistant software. Musk, who has spoken repeatedly about his fears of runaway artificial intelligence, said the Tesla bot is intended to be friendly, but that the company is designing the machine at a mechanical level so that you can run away from it and most likely overpower it. It will be 5 feet tall, 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighing about 125 pounds, and will have a screen for a face. The code name for the bot is Optimus, and the robot's design will handle tasks that are unsafe, repetitive, or boring for humans, as the company is written on its website. And essentially, the goal here is that for future physical work, you can have this robot take over things that maybe are repetitive or you shouldn't be doing anyway as a human. So, Nick, there's a lot to kind of unpack here, but I'm really excited because I have always wanted to see a humanoid robot, and I'm pretty confident that Tesla is going to kind of follow through on this specific design. But what are your kind of initial thoughts before we dive too deep?
You think you could take it? It's what is it? 125 pounds, 5'8". You think you could take it?
I don't know. You showed a graphic earlier about its deadlift, and I was like, ooh, that's heavy. I don't know if I could take the robot, as Mr. Musk says that you can, which is hilarious to me that it came up in the article, but of course it did.
So look, this is a catchy headline. Tesla is making humanoid robotics to put into the home. And we understand that this story on its own does not have a whole lot of merit. So we're going to bring in a bunch of human factors application from human robotic interaction to help support this article, basically. So stay tuned. We're gonna break down a whole bunch of human factor goodness for you. But my general thoughts on this is, oh, that's creepy. Oh, I want one. And like, my immediate first thought was it could do the dishes for me. And then I thought, oh yeah, it could pick up, like the goldfish crackers that my son leaves around the place, and then they could do the trash and stuff like that. The basically the physical work that he's talking about here, Musk, he's saying that there's a bunch of physical work that we do, these repetitive tasks that we want to eliminate. And so from that perspective, I think it's great. There's sort of a less obvious application for these types of humanoid robots, though, that I think deserves to be talked about. And that's something like comfort, companionship, potentially, depending on the AI that's on board, assistance for children, elderly, autistic folks, handicapped individuals. There's a lot of things that, maybe us privileged individuals may not think about right away, where this could make a huge difference in people's lives. And I think that's always cool to highlight. What are your initial thoughts on this, Blake? I want to get your thoughts before I get to social thoughts.
Sure, yeah. So one thing that I find really interesting, and I I hadn't really gone through and followed all of Tesla or all of Elon Musk's kind of like projects he had worked on that maybe didn't pan out. So there's a bunch that are listed in this article across the board. But I'm like I said at the end of the intro, I'm kind of confident that this will be something that we will see, even if it's, later than a year from now, because I think there's a lot of utility in the industry side of it for the company itself, using robots inside of their actual factories, helping reduce some of the kind of monotonous tasks that a lot of people maybe have to do, or making things safer, especially because this thing can, deadlift to a certain weight or lift things maybe heavier than or safer for humans without exoskeletons. So there's a cool impact to industry itself that I think could really be awesome, in addition to what you're talking about. So there's a really great aspect of having maybe another companion in the house. Let's say if you live by yourself or if you're an elderly person. But the biggest thing for me, and COVID has really allowed me to really see how much of time I can save by not doing tasks or automating tasks. And I think this is another step forward in that, like doing things like not having to drive to work every day back and forth saves gas, saves time, allowed me to work 2 jobs simultaneously without like having to worry about transportation or anything like that. And then same thing on top of doing things like ordering groceries to the house. It's freeing up your time that we never know how much we end up having at the very end, right? So something like a robot that can do some of the tasks around the house could be awesome. It'd be awesome if like you didn't have to do your laundry necessarily, or if there were other kind of manual labor tasks that, pile up throughout the week. And so you end up spending your weekend free time cleaning your entire home. So I think there's a lot of potential just easy benefit, but there is the bigger question here is like, what's how comfortable are we going to be with this thing in the house? Which I know we'll talk a little bit about later, but it's exciting because it feels like somewhere between a Isaac Asimov film and some science fiction movie, but also I see a lot of utility and a lot of kind of hope in the technology itself.
Yeah, so I want to get everyone who's watching, listening's thoughts. Today we asked, would you let a humanoid robot in your house? Is it scary? And then if you would, what tasks would you want it to perform? This is our social thoughts. And again, we post these the day of our show. So if you're following us on any of these social platforms, you can always reach out to us. I want to highlight Barry Kirby's response here because I feel like this is really important. And it goes along the line, it kind of opens up the discussion of human-robot interaction and what it means to have artificial intelligence in your house. Barry writes, have we already taken the first tentative steps within smart speakers, robot vacuums, and home automation? The next steps of having them combined in a meaningful device is probably quite small. The big step could be when we start to have more conversational style type of interaction. But as to the question, as a gadget geek, of course I would. If it could do the household chores, then that would be amazing. So, he raises some great points here with, we've kind of already taken the first steps to introducing AI and robots into our home. Do you have any robots in your home that you can think about off the top of your head?
I actually don't. I have 0 in my house. Because I was trying to think of, do I have anything beyond just like a virtual assistant that's associated with my phone? And no, I don't. I don't really have anything that's taking care of any chores. Now, do you have any? Is there anything that you use in your ecosystem?
Yeah. So I have a voice assistant, one from each of the main companies. And then, I have, if you think about automated tasking, I have a lot of different automated tasks that happen, right? Lights come on at a certain time, they go off at a certain time. And, what is the difference between like programming and artificial intelligence and all that stuff? We can talk about it, but just bringing in more automation and bringing in more those assistants, I think is a big kind of point here. We'll get to more of these social thoughts. We'll kind of sprinkle them throughout. But I did want to talk about, use this as a springboard as more of a human-robot interaction perspective. We can talk about it through the lens of this Tesla bot, or Project Optimus, as they call it. So I want to talk about briefly these 4 categories of human-robot interaction. And maybe we can dig into them if any of them pique our interest here. But human supervisory control of robots in the performance of routine tasks. So this is kind of what I was talking about, right? We're looking at these routine tasks, and we're just kind of stepping back and monitoring them, right? These are kind of levels of application again. So we have that one. We have remote control of space, airborne, terrestrial, and undersea vehicles for non-routine tasks in hazardous or inaccessible environments. So this is more of the remote control robot that will handle these tasks for us. So again, it's a robot. There's not, what's the word I'm looking for? Like AI behind it or anything. It's just you controlling this thing, but it's still part of human robot interaction. And I think it's important because that's kind of what I was talking about with the automated systems in the house. They're not AIs. They're not technically robots, but I'm supervising them. That's that first point. Point 3 here, automated vehicles in which a human is a passenger, including automated highway and rail vehicles and commercial aircraft. So now we are kind of getting to that application area where we're kind of relinquishing control to another system. And we can talk about the whole like stages of automation, but I think that it's different from human robot interaction. It's a whole nother conversation that we can have. The last one here, human robot social interaction, including robot devices to provide entertainment, teaching, comfort, and assistance for individuals. They go on to mention some the groups I mentioned earlier: children, elderly, autistic, handicapped persons. So those are the 4 areas of application. Anyone that speaks to you, Blake? You want to jump into any of these?
So they're all kind of an interesting set of concepts that really, to tie it back to Barry Kirby's point of have we already started this ball rolling of introducing a bunch of technology that has robotics associated with it in our homes now, and how's it going to like take a stepwise function to become an actual robot in your house that you're talking to conversationally to control some of these tasks for you. So I feel like right now there's a lot of stuff that we do in terms of routine tasks in our home that could be, relegated to some sort of robot that you control, whether it's via like an application or even like talking to it, be it, one of the virtual assistants or having like a Roomba in your house. I do think that it's kind of an interesting place that we step between when we move to point 2, in which now you're still like mainly in control, but you're just controlling a robot. And I'm wondering if that point number 2 is where a lot of kind of supervisory control starts, and then as AI kind of develops and is able to handle more and more tasking, and we start letting these teleoperators handle a lot more vehicles or handle a lot more robots at once and just be kind of monitoring for specific markers or warnings in situations where they need to intervene or the AI may be getting something wrong. But those 2 are kind of, I think, where we really are at the moment the most. I mean, I know we do have, passenger vehicles that do have some automation tied to them. We definitely have rails and stuff like that are tied to automation, but I feel like point 1 and 2 are very much, almost every day for right now. But I would imagine that as time goes on, we really will have to think about what is appropriate or the best mode of human robot interaction versus just human computer interaction, because now we'll stop really having to deal so much with like software things that are controlling a robot, and it'll be more, I would imagine, having a conversation and trying to direct a robot to complete a task, regardless of it's in your house or if it's something you're controlling in a supervisory fashion.
Yeah, we'll talk about teaching robots, and actually we can jump into that in just a minute. I do want to get to another social thought here. So Rachel in our Discord, I got a robot vacuum, makes life so much easier. His name is Mark Zuckerberg. So we there's another social thought for you. Let's talk about teaching robots. A human basically can give these instructions to a robot, right? Specifying how to move, when to move, what to avoid. But basically, this is we're trying to avoid these unintended consequences, right? As sort of these advances in computer-based speech understanding happen, there's sort of it becomes easier to command these robots, right? But again, there's this unintended consequences that can happen, right? So you can think about human supervisors giving a signal to the robot to do the thing, right? And basically this would be kind of an extension of displays or update models that kind of look ahead at some of these things that are going to happen. So you kind of understand what the robot's intent is going to do, and then you say, yes, go and do it. I think teaching a robot is an interesting thing, because like, what if I want a robot to go into goldfish mode? I have to teach it what a goldfish is. I have to teach it where it's likely to be, or what area I want it to pick up the goldfish from. I have to teach it where those goldfish go. And then there's training an artificial intelligence system to recognize when a goldfish is in fact a goldfish, or it's a toy, from some other set that looks like a goldfish. And so what's the level of tolerance there? So there's a lot, and what if that robot misunderstands one of my son's toys for a goldfish and throws it out? Well, then he's going to be upset because he can't find his toy because daddy robot threw it out, right? So like, there's all these things that we have to think about, and it's going to be especially interesting. I'll say interesting to consider what these unintended consequences would be in the home. What do you think about training robots, Blake, and what kind of like human factors applications we have there?
I think this is probably a crass way to put this, but I feel like a lot of the problems that may arise from training a robot in the home is similar to how you feed an algorithm data or in machine learning, right? Like, it's only as good as the input you're providing it. And what comes out is going to be likely a function of what's being given to the robot itself. I think a lot of what's going to be really tough at first iteration of this kind of stuff, or integrating it into your home, is, and I'm not an AI expert, I don't pretend to be, but I know that we don't have generalized artificial intelligence, available open on the market where it can learn from a lot of mistakes very quickly. So there will be a lot of, in terms of your human factors applications, if you think about putting a robot in someone's home, let's say you got it and you have a kid, I have it, and I have like a dog and a partner, you're going to have to go through a period where basically you have to take tutorials, if you will, on how to interact with the robot appropriately, so that you know what commands to execute and you know what to expect it to do. And you also know what the limitations of the robot itself is. Because I think up front, it's going to be much more, or it's going to be kind of unlikely that the robot's going to be picking up, from an AI perspective, like, oh, I have to be careful when I walk through the living room that I don't bump into things. I think it'll be able to map its environment, yes, but things like, let's say, if let's say it was dusting the television and knocked a plant off of the table. I'm not sure that it's going to necessarily learn that was an unintended consequence at first, but by, having that experience over time, you would imagine that development of AI and implementation into robots, it could learn to avoid, haphazard things like that. So I could imagine up front, things in terms of unintended consequences are going to be, things you just don't expect, or you can't, you really can't beta test in a production environment, because you never know what everybody's house is going to be like, what the environment is, and things like that. So I think a lot of it's going to be upfront trying to figure out what's the easiest way to, kind of like with any other app that you download on your phone, what's the sweet spot between too much information and overwhelming the end user, and then making sure that they feel comfortable and able to use the application. It would be the same thing with any kind of integration of a robot into your home environment. What are the variables you need to understand as an end user, and what are like the key things you need to know in order to effectively have a relationship with it in your home? So I think, either developing AR applications to kind of let you walk through and experience what the robot can do, or, giving you some kind of companion app that allows you to do that supervisory control could be really helpful. But in terms of teaching it, I think there's going to be a bit of a gap until we get to the point where AI is really expansive and more ubiquitous, before we really see a whole lot of learning on the job, if you will. But there'll be a lot of like continually feeding robots different data and trying to understand like how to basically make it very customized for your own home and your own experience that you want to have with it.
Right. And I mean, a lot of that will come, I think, from the access to the other data sets, right? Imagine somebody puts together a module to dust the TV, and it learns from not just in your household, but how other Tesla bots learn. They learn from each other. and eventually human bad. But if you think about that way, right, you have access to all this data. You might be able to download routines similar to how you do on one of these voice assistants that other people put together. You can do these routines and then they perform them. And then, kind of extrapolating from that, and a tie back to last week's episode when thinking about learning, right? Like maybe you could download some module. As a parent, this would be cool. Download some module to have the robot teach using the screen on its face, expressive like emojis or whatever, to teach a complex topic to my child, or something like that. And you could use this almost like an education tool for children, because they learn better when they're interacting with a live human than a television screen or something. But if you have a robot that's able to use a human voice and animate like a human, that would be an interesting study to see how exactly children understand, or really how people of different ages and abilities learn from robots. And I think that's a key human factors concept that should be explored, right? Any thoughts on education?
I think that's awesome. It's not a thought on education, but let me walk down that road for a second. So I do think that based on what we talked about last week, where using VR, for those maybe who didn't listen to the episode, definitely go check it out, because it had a lot of kind of cool visuals associated with it and a lot of interesting neuroscience behind it. But the gist being that learning through virtual reality, it provides a little bit of a more exciting learning experience is the biggest takeaway, but also could potentially over time provide a way to really have an immersive learning experience too. Now, a lot of that had to do with just the immersive aspects of it, of being able to see things from different vantage points and the very interactive nature of VR. So imagine that, like Nick's described, in your home teaching you something, where you effectively have a robot teacher. And because these things are very humanoid-like, you could imagine being able to see something done in real time in front of you and understanding whatever concept you're trying to learn. Say it's like, I don't know, math, playing guitar, or whatever it might be, how immersive that could be. And it could also be, like Nick said, a cool way for you to basically access different routines or open source software to teach different, skills maybe to a kid or to even yourself. But the one thing that you did bring up that, of course, my mind immediately goes to is if, let's say, we are allowing this to be, something that's open source software and you can download routines, download whatever you want to. Imagine the amount of data that is likely being collected on your interactions with this specific robot, but also some potential vulnerabilities of this basically being another thing that's connected to the Internet of Things. So now you've got a humanoid robot that is, to Elon's point, something you supposedly could overtake, but it's essentially another human that you would have to deal with in your house. It could potentially, be dangerous in some capacity or another if it was subject to hacking or anything like that.
Falls over on you even, or, on a cat, trips over a cat that it doesn't detect or something, well, let's talk about fears, and kind of how the integration of these robots might, come into our daily lives. There's a lot of media out there that actually talks about robot takeovers. I mean, that's Elon's whole fear, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of, we're conditioned to think that way when we see robots performing these tasks. Did you see the Atlas robots a couple weeks ago doing parkour, right? All the comments on that were, oh, well, we're screwed. So, I mean, you think about what this means for us as a society. Are these robots taking our jobs away, or are they providing more jobs? Constructing them, doing the AI behind them. Are they useful assistants, enhancing our self-worth, or are they diminishing our sense of self? Are they improving security or becoming spies? These are types of questions that human factors needs to solve, and mostly, and something I'm really excited about is messaging, right? Like, how do we, like, you open this thing up, what does the messaging look like from the presentation of opening this up? Does it show up in a box at your door? Do you pick it up in a factory and have it sit in your car on your way home? Does it talk to you while you're driving home? Is it just this void in the back seat? Like all these things, getting the device, I call it a device, getting the robot into your home is going to be an experience. And so you have to think about this from the very beginning of buying the thing. Do you hold its hand as you walk out the door? Like, I don't know what this looks like. Do you keep it in a box until you get it home, put it in the back of the truck, open it up? It says, hello, my name is Bot, and you can name me whatever you want. And like, what is the first thing that comes out of its mouth when it comes into your home? There's a lot of things that you have to think about in terms of presentation here to get over some of these fears, to integrate them appropriately with our lifestyles. And I just find it fascinating. I don't know. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that whole perspective, Blake.
I just imagine this thing, you order it through whatever means, and it just shows up automatically driven to your house in a Tesla and dropped off, and it knocks on your door and introduces itself. That's what my vision of its messaging is and how it enters your life. But yeah, I mean, it's really tough, right? Because I think there's a lot of potential scary aspects of it. And really going back to, I'm going to mess this up, going back to point 2 you made, kind of like what are some of the big application areas? So thinking about remote control of space, airborne, terrestrial, undersea vehicles for non-routine or hazardous tasks. That to me really makes me think of, what if we could do military operations with these unmanned vehicles that you can control from afar? But it also leads to the scary point, which came up from the Atlas robot. It's come up from the different Hound robots. Like, do these things start participating in warfare? And that opens a whole different scary can of worms from my perspective, because war and whatnot, as terrible as it is, and if we're kind of integrating and using robots as part of this, it doesn't feel like it's going to end in a great place for humanity in and of itself. But pulling it back to just some of the security vulnerabilities that maybe you expose yourself to by potentially having one of these in your house, I think that's a big side of this that has to be thought through before you start, just sending these one-off deals to somebody's home. Because like cybersecurity, as we know, across definitely our nation, but across the world, it's a thing that's relatively hard to kind of address every point. Like a lot of times the vulnerabilities appear that you maybe wouldn't have expected, or there's just not people with the expertise in every organization to identify them. So I think companies like Tesla, who hopefully are on the kind of cutting edge of thinking about that, and with, people do poke fun at Elon Musk for his thoughts about AI and it kind of taking over the world, but hopefully that's leading itself to creating stuff that is safer for you to put in your home and be able to use it in kind of the fashion that it's meant for, which is just making life a little bit simpler and giving you back some time in your life day to day.
Yeah. So I do want to mention that we have been using an article published by Thomas Sheridan in the Human Factors and Ergonomics Journal. And the title of the article is Human-Robot Interaction Status and Challenges. We're using that for a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about today. If anyone's interested, we'll put the link down below. But I do want to bring some key points kind of home to round out this discussion. And these are from the article here. So some of the major human factors research challenges include task analysis. So that includes dynamics, economics, other factors, teaching the robot, and avoidance of unintended consequences, like we talked about. We also have considering how both human and the robot have mutual models of each other, the use of robots in education, coping, and the last one here, coping with user culture, fears, and other value considerations. So these are some major human factors research challenges. And then there's a couple extra key points here in the article. To date, except for aviation, the human factors community has contributed a very small fraction of the human robotics papers in the literature. So there's kind of this call to action for more coverage on human-robot interaction. This article was published in 2016. I'd imagine not much has changed since then. We've had 2 years of a pandemic, and it's only 5 years ago. So, yes, things change, but research is slow. So think about that. So there's a couple other points here. Essentially, all robots for the foreseeable future will be controlled by humans. either as teleoperators, steered by continuous manual movement, or as telerobots, intermittently monitored and reprogrammed by human supervisors. Another point, human-robot interaction is a rapidly expanding field with a great need for human factors involvement in research and design, especially as robots are challenged to undertake more sophisticated tasks, like the Tesla bot wants to. In any case, the first 90% of replacing humans with robots is much easier than the last 10%. And then last point here, whereas the human race is changing very slowly, computers and robots are evolving at a very rapid pace. Therefore, specific conclusions about human-robot interaction are likely to become invalid in a short time. Motivation of the human-robotics interaction community seems to be more focused on building and demonstrating what works and provoking new ideas than in providing detailed and validated scientific conclusions. So we're looking ahead. We're not quite, analyzing everything that's there now. I'm going to read a social thought, and then we'll get back to you, Blake. So this one is from our good buddy, Mateo. Mateo writes, hang on, I gotta make this a little bigger because I can't see it. It might be too big. Here, I'll read Kristen's. Are they waterproof? Because I hate doing dishes. And actually, if I only get to pick one chore, I do yard work. I hate bugs. I'm going to pull up Mateo's. Why don't you give your thoughts on those key points there, Blake?
The key points are really interesting. So I'm kind of... It's the last point was really a shocker to me because I think it does make sense, right? Because as technology is continually evolving, everybody is likely trying just to push the bounds of what can be created. Like as you get more machine learning algorithms that work better, more or closer to AI development, and as robotics get better, sleeker, easier to use. But there is a great point there that a lot of what will need to be thought through as we continue moving forward and as we start putting these things out into the world is really understanding the impact that they have from a scientific point of view, both on probably human cognition and interaction, but also just like the computing science behind all of it.
Yeah, great point. All right, one last social thought here, and then we'll go ahead and hammer it home. Mateo says, definitely cleaning, always cleaning. Today it's a Roomba, tomorrow it's, hey, Jeeves. The humanization of robots definitely makes them more relatable and less threatening. I don't know. Some might disagree with that assessment. All right, Blake, any other closing thoughts on the Tesla bots before we get out of here?
Not necessarily, but a question for you, and then I'll answer it as well. So
okay.
We took the social thoughts, we put it out to the world. Now, would you put this thing in your home?
Yes, absolutely. I think, like I said, I want these goldfish cleaned up as efficiently and as quickly as possible. I want the dishes done as quickly, as efficiently as possible. I want the toilet scrubbed as quickly, as efficiently as possible. I want, our supplies refilled as quickly and efficiently as possible. I want to basically just take things out and not put them away and have the robot put them away in the right place so that way I know where to get them. What about you, Blake? Would you put this thing in your house?
I wouldn't put it in my house, mainly because I don't live in a house. I live in a small apartment, and I don't know where it would live. I mean, would it live on the couch that's behind
Crash
me?
on the couch every night.
I don't know. So just because of space limitations, I would have to say no now. But maybe in the future, if I can give it its own room and all that kind of good stuff.
Give it a closet. It doesn't need a full living space. It just needs a place to charge up.
Well, yeah, if we had a closet with a charger, I would do it then. But one day, maybe one day.
All right. Well, thank you to our patrons for selecting our topic this week. And thank you to our friends over at The Verge, Tesla, and of course, HFES for publishing that article by Sheridan. For our news story this week, if you want to follow along, join me on Office Hours every Monday night where I find these news stories. And we do post the links to all these articles in our weekly roundups on our blog. You can also join us on Slack or Discord for more discussion on these and to be tuned in for when we do social thoughts. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back to see what's going on in the Human Factors community.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Yes, huge thank you as always to our patrons and especially our honorary Human Factors Cast staff, patron Michelle Tripp. Patrons like you keep the show running. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you want to become a patron, you can certainly do that. You have access to Human Factors Minute, something that continues to surprise us week to week, even ourselves. I think that we managed to put it together and have some really interesting things to talk about. Anyway, I think it's time we switch gears and get into this next part of the show.
It came from.
Yes, it came from. We're going to check out what's going on in the community here. We're searching all over the internet to bring you topics that the community's talking about. So you know what? Wherever you're watching, if you find this useful, go ahead and give us a like, a thumbs up, whatever the thing is that you're watching on right now. All right, we have 3 tonight. I think we'll only do 3. Blake,
do it.
I think we talk about maybe the first 2 and the last one, or maybe the first 3. I'm not sure. We'll get there. Let's see here. This first one, though, is from the User Experience subreddit. This is, to be successful in this field, do you need to speak more than what is required? Please read. This is by badboy1245 on the User Experience subreddit. Now, really quick, at the top here, you're talking to 2 people on a podcast, so of course we're going to talk more than necessary, but let's just do it. They go on to write, there are some people in my organization I have noticed who go on speaking about a topic more than what's required and take ages to put across their point. Something that can be explained in 2 minutes takes almost 10 minutes to finish. Honestly, it becomes so boring, and I literally lose track of the topic because of this. They go off topic, talk about everything, and don't come straight to the point regardless of the topic, be it a process explanation, client presentation, team discussions, etc. The weird thing is that the upper management somehow like this, as they feel the person is very knowledgeable and knows his or her stuff. I, on the other hand, am completely the opposite. I, for the love of God, can't seem to go off topic and finish my talks fairly quickly. But because of this, I'm looked down upon and get called out for it. This is not a rant, but I was genuinely curious, so I've observed this thing in my 3 years of a career as a designer and wanted to know, am I in the wrong here? And should I potentially speak more? Or is this actually a problem? And have you encountered it also? I personally feel it's rather inefficient, but please, if I'm doing it wrong, please let me know. Thanks, Blake. Let's talk about communication. How long does it take you to communicate something? What's all the stuff going on?
Yeah, so one thing to consider here is it depends on like your personality and also how you present or how you process information. Because I know that I can be pretty long-winded. Like, of course, I do a podcast with Nick, and most people that listen to it know that I am long-winded. But even at work, I can be because I sometimes have to be processing thoughts as I'm saying them. So that's one thing to consider. It could be these people that are a little bit more long-winded than you are. Their communication style is just different in how they process information. This is actually something Elise has really turned me on to, and this could be called what's like a verbal processor or a in real time processor, where actually talking through the ideas helps to turn light bulbs on for them, and they discover things like as they're actively talking. So that could just be a communication style thing to get used to. But what is maybe a little bit more concerning is the fact that you're experiencing that, hey, I feel like I can say the things I need to say in a very short amount of time. I feel like it's effective and it gets the point across. However, you feel like you're being looked down upon for it. Now, this could just be happening. It could be that some people value more words or more time being taken up, more time spent in meetings than they do just the the meat and potatoes of what you're actually saying. But one thing I would encourage you to do, especially if you've observed this over across many years, is maybe talking to some of your peers and trying to understand when you do give these explanations that are related to whatever it is, if it's a presentation, if it's talking in a stand-up, whatever, are you really getting the point across effectively for other people? Because it may be that you don't know your audience well enough, and it could be that you're explaining things in a quick, to the point manner, but you're leaving out details that are important for the larger team. Especially, let's say, if you're working like in a cross-functional team where everybody doesn't necessarily know the nuances of the product or the portion of the project you're working on. Could be that you just need to provide more details for your specific audience. So, long story short, or long story long in this case, it could be fine what you're doing, but I would definitely talk to other peers, people that you trust or people that you work with, to make sure that what they hear in these different instances is you getting your point across. You're just doing it quickly. But also consider the audience of who you're presenting all this information to. But Nick, what do you have? What's your experience here in communication with various people?
Yeah, communication is really important, obviously. Look, I was the kid in school that always got frustrated with the teachers for teaching so slowly, until I realized exactly what Blake was saying, is that people learn differently and people absorb information differently. And so while you might be able to get this very quickly, others may not be keyed into all the intricacies of the topic. And so it might take them a little bit more time to understand sort of the context around whatever's being presented. For me, and this is something that is a good practice no matter where you are, when I put together briefs, a brief needs to stand alone without, it needs to stand alone when you send it off. Somebody should be able to sit down and read through that brief and understand exactly what you're talking about. And so when you do that, you provide a lot of context. And so when you brief those briefs that have all that context in it, you need to provide that context verbally, and you need to provide several different examples a lot of the time for somebody to understand exactly what you're talking about. Because if you are presenting to stakeholders, they might not understand what a usability study is. They might not understand exactly what you have done to perform a usability study. What did it entail, right? You can say, we found this, and that's your point, but they don't have trust in that point because they haven't gone on that journey with you to understand that, you did your due diligence. You know what you're talking about, and clearly this is a result of our product and not just your interpretation. And I think that's a really important point for human factors practitioners or user experience professionals who are looking to present something to somebody. You are an expert, but at the same time, you are an advocate for the user. So you need to explain to them that all the findings are based on user feedback, and you're just the person that's advocating for them. And while it might be tempting to say, look at all the stuff I know, look at this heuristic analysis I performed, that's not going to be as powerful as, seeing user data that says, I hate this product. And so showing them how you got to the point where the user is saying, I hate this product, is going to be a lot more effective than just coming out and saying the users hate this product. And I think that's probably the most stark example of that. But that's kind of what I'm thinking is going on here. Again, without more context, not sure. Any other thoughts on that, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, one thing to consider is that, because this person specifically mentions that they're a designer, half of the job is storytelling. Like, it's not so much are you able to do the things and use the tools, it's communicating the rationale between why what you did is the end result. So Nick is absolutely right. You've got to realize, one, that you are an expert, and you've got to understand that their fallacies come with being an expert. You do things that are so innate at this point that you don't even know to explain them. So that could be a large portion of what's happening. Maybe you're working with diverse people with different backgrounds and like different levels of expertise. So you have to really storytell, talk about the process and how you got to the end goal, versus just coming out and, like Nick's example, saying product sucks, users hate it. That's the end of my little 2-minute check-in. Can't really do that. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, let's get into this next one here. This one is, speaking of design, staying plugged in to the design universe. This is from Neurotic Buddha. We've had on the show before, or we've featured one of their It Came Froms before. Also from the user experience subreddit here, we're looking at, because I'm the only designer at my company, I often feel as though I'm not keeping up with the evolution of UX design, or research methods for that matter, since we're on a Human Factors podcast. I follow a bunch of different blogs and listen to podcasts here and there, but most of these just discuss methodologies or career advice. What do you do to stay plugged in and up to date with design trends in the industry? Blake.
The bet is, maybe this is outing myself a little too much, but it's always good to do this. So I think the best way to do anything and stay involved in it is to teach it. Like for those who don't know, like I've had a weird kind of career path. Like I started off as like a human factors analyst, if you will, got dabbling into design, and then really went all the way as a designer, and then moved into, functional prototyping and front end engineering. So breadth of skills, pretty vast. But the way that I got to be a designer was through teaching. I was not very good at design on my own. I really didn't, know where to even go to, be plugged into the design community or the UX community. So teaching through various platforms has been really beneficial to me. And I think ultimately through like Design Lab and now with ADP List, by interacting with people constantly going through, coming out of boot camps and then needing advice on getting their career started, or working with people, teaching them different things in Figma or whatever it may be, that kind of act of mentorship and teaching has really kept me, quote unquote, plugged into what's going on in UX design, because new people that are coming and learning it for the first time through the various programs that I'm a part of, they always have questions about something they read on the internet, or something they heard on a podcast, or a talk that they sat in on. And so it forces me to go and do my homework, if you will, and understand the design trend or the new way to do a prototyping thing in whatever design tool we're working in. So it's really allowed me to stay, plugged in much more of a way than just consuming content. Because, like, again, throwback to the episode last week, that more immersive learning experience, which I think teaching really helps you get that experience, can just keep you in the loop of everything that's going on in your field or your industry and keep you kind of excited about it. So I don't know. I would try and mentor other people if you're a little bit more senior, or if you've had a couple of years experience. That can really help you just learn new things about the field that you're in and kind of just constantly keep you on your toes. But Nick, how do you stay plugged into what's going on in the HF world?
Oh man, I love it when we have different answers, and I think your answer is great. I just have a different one. So mine is keeping in touch with people, which is kind of your answer, but yours is more like get it from a variety of different sources. Mine is like go to conferences, stay up to date with the latest in the field, by following individuals or connecting with individuals. Like you say, you're the only designer at your company, then maybe make a connection elsewhere, or catch up with some old friends and be like, hey, what are you doing to do X, Y, and Z? And that's what conferences are great for, is that you get sort of exposed to some of these new methodologies or some of these new trends, right? I think from speaking from design, right, I think there's a lot of things that you can absorb just from using other products. You can, you start to develop an eye for things like drop shadows or rounded edges or other sort of design elements like pastel colors. Like you sort of start to absorb what other companies are doing. And if you follow the leaders, and take that as you will. There are certain companies that are more ubiquitous than others, and they're more permanent, they're more a permanent fixture in our lives than others. Let's put it that way. And so they have large teams dedicated to improving user experience and design. And so not to say that they're right all the time. Looking at you, Windows I forget what it was. Anyway, not to say that they're right with the tiles. Come on. Not to say that they're right all the time, but they're industry leaders. And so paying attention to what they're doing will often put you at least in the right direction, especially because of how ubiquitous these products are. They're going to be used by many people. And so the translation to another product is not going to be that much of a stretch if you follow their example. And so, I again hate saying beg, borrow, and steal, but if somebody else has already done it and they've done the research and they've shared it at a conference or on their professional platform via Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, then you're probably okay to use that as justification to incorporate that in your design. Any other thoughts on that one, Blake?
The last bit that I would say, if you really feel like you want to stay plugged in and on top of what's going on, there's no better way to do that, I think, than creating content around it. Whether it's a podcast, it's Instagram posts, it's LinkedIn articles, it's a YouTube channel. That's a great way to force yourself to have to like look at what other people are doing and then say like, how is this applicable to me, and how is this applicable in a way for an audience that I want to create? So that's another way to kind of stay on top of trends and things like that. Again, it's much more getting into the immersive space to actually show what's going on or what's new in the world.
Yeah, I think that's all we have time for with It Came From. I do want to get into this one more thing that needs no introduction. It's one more thing. It's where Blake and I talk about one more thing. Blake, what do you got this week?
I got kind of a weird one. So today was a big like heavy music awards show, and there's my favorite podcast, the guy that does it, he was up to win for the metal genre or whatever, and he did, and it was just a really cool experience for me personally, as someone who, like, COVID has had a lot of weird impacts on my life that I'm starting only to really pinpoint now. But one thing was kind of introducing this person and this personality into parts of my life. Like, I don't know the guy. We don't have any kind of actual relationship, but there's been a lot of me consuming his content and things like that, and learning his life story. And it was just really cool to watch somebody who a couple of years ago felt like they hit rock bottom, kind of reinvigorate and change their entire life through a way that really only COVID could have provided, through canceling all shows and canceling normal mediums of doing things. So it was just an interesting kind of experience to be able to share with somebody through Twitch, through like a giant audience or whatever, and just made me feel really good. So
that's awesome.
I don't know. Yeah. How about you, Nick? What's going on with you?
Well, hang on. You know what? If you're listening to this, and you've listened to the show for a long time, we've been in your ear holes or on your TV or whatever for a long time. And we want to return the favor. Reach out, say hi. We'll say hi back. We're pretty approachable. So if you had an experience like Blake, where we're part of your lives in some way, we're pretty approachable. Join our communities. That's always a good way to kind of get into the whole thing. I don't know. It is weird, right? When you like talk to somebody who's on a podcast, because you're like, I know so much about you, but you know nothing about me.
Yeah, it's really strange. But it's the strangest dynamic ever, but it's cool. I've learned a lot, and it's a fun way to interact with people across the internet.
Yeah. All right. So my one more thing is this platform called Gather. And this is a virtual meeting software. This is what the Neuroergonomics Conference is going to be using for their virtual venue. And I will show video of this in the post show. Blake, I know you got to run, but I will show video of this in the post show because it's so cool. But basically, it's like if you took an 8-bit video game and designed a conference center around this video game. You can actually walk around and interact with elements in the environment. You can, what's the word I'm looking for? You can basically interact with other people in the environment. You can interact with posters in the environment, and it looks like an 8-bit video game. I wish I could pull it up for you. I'm trying right now, but it's not working. So maybe we'll show it later. Oh, there it is. So for everyone listening, I'll try my best to describe what's going on here. But I'm at a virtual conference right now, and I'm actually walking around with my little avatar. This is the venue for the neuroergonomics conference, and you can go into like poster sessions here and look at individual poster sessions and presumably watch like a video of somebody performing it. But I just thought it was such a neat little thing. I was geeking out so much about this to our lab that I loved it so much. I had to like give it her because it's really cool. And if you want a chance to go to this, so you can actually experience Gather yourself. If you go to the Neuroergonomics conference, you can actually experience the venue before it starts. You can go check it out. But again, if you wanted that chance to win, you can certainly enter the contest. Again, that giveaway will be linked in the description of this episode. And I would have said it without the giveaway, but it's awesome. It's awesome. I was geeking out so much about this thing. It's so cool.
Yeah, that is an amazing take on the virtual experience for a conference, for meetups, whatever they end up using, everything Gather does. That's so cool. I'm so excited to attend.
8-bit top-down MMO at a conference. That's exactly what it is. All right, let's take it home. That's it for today, everyone. Let us know what you guys think of the story this week. Are you going to put a Tesla bot in your home? Let us know down in the comments. You can always hang out with us on Slack, Discord, get to us on any of our social channels. You can visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date with all the latest Human Factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, you can do a couple things to support the show. One, you can leave us a 5-star review. Can tell your friends about us. That's another thing you can do. Consider supporting us on Patreon. That always helps the show grow and use more advanced technology to get the Human Factors word out there. And as always, links to all of our socials, our website, and the giveaway are going to be in the description of this episode. I want to thank Mr. Blake Arnsdorff for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to find out about clearing out their closet for their own Tesla bot?
If you guys want to join me in the clearing out your closet revolution for our Tesla bots, you can always find me across social media at Don't Panic UX or in the Human Factors Cast, Discord, or Slack at Blake.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me streaming on Twitch every Monday night at 4 p.m. For my office hours, and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning into Human Factors Cast. Until next time, it depends. All right, if you're hanging out with us, stay tuned. I'm going to stick around. Blake, you got to go.
I do. I'm going to export this thing, send it over to you, and then I will be out of here.
YouTube comment. Which one is that?
So we got one from Leonard Jordan. So Leonard Jordan writes, I think the humanoid robot could impact the healthcare industry dramatically, especially as the baby boomer generation reaches retirement and the current/future shortage of healthcare workers worsens. That is a great point, I have to say.
Sorry, I was distracted. Let's see. I think the human robot could impact the healthcare industry dramatically. Yes, I agree. And we talked about it briefly during the show, the companionship. And I think this is like people get animals and dogs as therapy pets. Animals and dogs. Dogs are animals. They get animals as therapy pets. And what if you get a therapy robot? That's another cool application. And then if you think about, so this is something I wish I would have thought about on the show, is like, what about downloading personality cores? Like you have a robot that has different personalities, and you could do the Hasselhoff, or you could do like a typical robot to make it feel less intimidating, or maybe there's like a little display that shows how much power each personality core uses because of the gestures it uses, and so it might expend a little bit more energy doing expressive hand motions or something like that. How cool would that be? That'd be really neat.
Man, what that makes me think of is I think it's one of the only Black Mirror episodes I've ever watched, but basically being able to put like a loved one's consciousness into some sort of robot. That could be interesting for closure or whatever, but it could also be terrifying at the same time. But the way these are designed, in that it's got a screen face, like it's not humanoid when we think of like flesh robot, right? It's much more, it feels like a robot, at least in the prototype we've seen from the drawings of that Musk has done, but also like the stage mannequin they used.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting.
I wonder if if that face is full color or if it's just like what's the word I'm looking for? If it's just like black and white. So
that's
like,
what I want. I want to see the face. That
Right.
was a part that I am still pretty terrified of. Is like what is the face going to be like? Is it going to be digitally and pixelated, or is it going to be skin tones of your choosing or whatever? I don't know. It just freaks me out. Freaks me out to no end.
Leonard here with another question. Is it possible to have robots designed just for tasks to aid nurses? I think we've seen this in another story.
Have, yeah.
I feel like this is one of the stories that we saw or that we researched right before the show, which was, let me refresh my mind here. Refresh my brain. There was... So there's robotic exosuits helping stroke victims. That wasn't it. There's robot lifeguards, but then there was wasn't there one amazing. Wasn't there one right around COVID where it would like go through and
there's one that would pass out prescriptions and stuff.
Is passing out prescriptions and sanitizing like sanitizing rooms with UV rays and basically I forget what episode that was. I feel like we totally...
that didn't come up in your search when we started the podcast.
I'm looking for it. I mean, it's certainly possible. And I wish I could find that article for you. I'm going to keep looking here. Blake, I know you got to run.
I am uploading this to you and I will be out of here, my dude.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for hanging out and talking about human factors and stuff.
Thanks for everybody that came and hung out with us. It was really sweet to, have people in chat and be able to go back and forth. We had the great Barry Kirby come hang out for a little bit from across the pond. It's been a fun night. But I am going to leave out of here. I will catch you later, Nick. Goodbye to everybody else. See you next week, let's hope, and have a good one.
Goodbye. Take care. I'm looking right now, Leonard, for that episode. It looks like there's so autonomous robots are helping kill the coronavirus in hospitals. This was an article from IEEE Spectrum. Let me bring this up on screen share here. So these are not like what's the word I'm looking for? These are not humanoid robots, but they are robots in the sense that they are helping. They're like trash can robots or whatever. So you do have these guys right here. This is what I was talking about with the UV rays. They kind of blast the room and sanitize it. They also go in and they fold towels and disinfect specific airplane areas. Anyway, this is the article here. It's like I said on IEEE Spectrum. The name of the article is "Autonomous Robots Are Helping Kill Coronavirus in Hospitals." Do check that out. Anyway, I mentioned that I was going to show some Gather, which I thought I had up, but maybe not. Let me just take a look for it. So again, Gather here is the platform that Neuroergonomics Conference is going to be using for their venue. I think I showed it briefly on the show, but I'll show it again because I can sit and with it a little more for everyone on the stream. Let's see. There we go. Let me just share my screen with you all. All right. So here's Gather. This is my little avatar. This is what I'd look like if I were to dress up and go to this conference, which I am going to this conference. So you can join me there. Like I said, I'll give one more plug for the giveaway in the description of this live stream. It's there, but yeah, you can see this is the attendee list. I'm the only one in this space right now. If you were to jump on, you could join me in this space. And I think when you walk up to other individuals, you can actually share video and microphone. And if it's like other conference events that I've seen, you might be able to have like proximity chats. You might be able to hear a bunch of people talking, walk up and just kind of insert yourself into conversations. But it looks like there's a bunch of different meeting rooms here. I think these are probably for presentations. You might be able to sit down here and watch something. It looks like this is a video of some sort. It doesn't look like it's working, presumably because the conference is not actually happening yet. But it looks like these are lounges, and it looks like there's like a whiteboard over here in this room that could be fun to try. Let's see here. Okay, here's a shared whiteboard. Let's see what this looks like. Powered by Eraser. Let's see here. So you got an untitled workspace. This might be like test. Let's just try test, right? Select a drawing tool. Oh, that's cool. So you can like, do card sorting or whatever over here if you have, or like sketch up an interface if you think about it, right? You might even be able to be like, oh yeah, and we can put a button here and we can put like a reading pane here. Just like quickly mock something up, and I'm presumably somebody else can like tell you or insert their own stuff here, which would be kind of fun and interesting to try. Anyway, it's kind of cool to see like next generation of conferences is digital, and it's neat. Look at a little mini map of the venue itself. Looks like there's a screen share option. A way to give a little emoji to somebody. The instructions are kind of everywhere. I wonder what happens if you go out. Oh, there's a little outside lounge here. This is presumably like, you're broadcasting to the whole room when you're here. That's cool. That's really neat. This is like a little beach resort or something. That's pretty cool. Super neat. Anyway, it's going to be a little bit shorter of a after show. Taking a look over here. Is this a little food cart? Shaved ice. Cute. It's a little bit shorter of an after show since Blake isn't here. If any of you have any last questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here pretty soon. Thank you again for joining us for a earlier podcast today. No, it's like a rare instance where we record a little earlier, but hopefully you all had fun with us tonight. And let's see here. One more question here from Leonard. Have you had any podcast regarding IO Psych? Deciding between applying to IO and human factor psychology. IO. So we've done... Yes. There's a couple episodes that we have. If you search for like workplace on our website, you might be able to find some episodes. Workplace. I don't know if we've titled it IO. We tend to lump it in with everything else. So here I'm on our website here. If you look at workplace, right, you might be able to find certain things that are IO related. Certainly a lot of these, right? Pandemic protocols, imposter syndrome to a degree, but less so. Maybe looking at something like politics in the workplace. There you go. And we also, on our Human Factors news, there's a lot of workplace related things, right? Like here's our monthly roundup. You might be able to find something where looking at environmental design, workplace incivility, you got cameras during virtual meetings. So those types of things might be helpful for you. Yeah, take a look there. We've talked about it a little bit on the show, but yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Yeah. Anyway, with that, I think I'm going to get out of here. Thank you everyone for hanging out and watching. If you wouldn't mind, just give a little like so other people can find this stuff, and follow or subscribe, all that stuff. I'm bad at asking for that stuff, but it really does help the channel and it helps other people find this stuff. So again, thank you all for hanging out and appreciate it. And we'll see you next week for another episode.